And we are finally live. Oh, man. So, thanks for guys sticking around, guys. Welcome to the Iron Lords podcast, episode number 37. And it's another glorious Sunday, and we are back at the round table on the Lord's Day. We've got a very special guest, the murderous row of gaming, Capcom, Insomniac, and Destiny 2 PC launch to discuss. So we're going to get right into it. I want to introduce a Lord whose content I've been a huge fan of for some time. This Lord is one of the most positive beacons in our gaming community, and his passion is evident in everything he does. From his informative game reviews, epic top 10 lists, some of the most heartfelt gaming rants in the industry, and of course, that amazing Sega game library. Introducing one of the top YouTubers in the game, the Lord of retro game collection, amazing writing, and who always tells us to keep dreaming. Bobby, Lord DreamcastGuy, how are you doing, sir?
Man, awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been super cool. Y'all have actually been hitting me up for a while, and I'm so bad about it. I get busy and then I forget, but y'all just kept telling me to come on the show, and I've been a fan of the show, so I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So glad to have you. We're huge fans of you, man, and your energy. And like I said, we consider you a Lord at what you do. So it's only right that the Lords pay that proper respect, you know, and have you on the show, man. But thanks again for coming through, man. Huge fan. Yeah,
I'm happy to dig it. We had a bunch of great topics today, so man, I'm hyped to be here.
No doubt. And of course, we have the usual suspects at the round table. Unfortunately, my co-host with the co-most, he is very sick right now. He's throwing up, and actually, he's the one responsible for reaching out to Lord Dreamcast. So shout out to Lord Addict. Get well, fellow Lord. We miss you.
Lord is asleep.
It's not sleep this time because I spoke to him. The man lives.
He functions, but he has to get rest, so he is sleeping. Lord of the sleep.
That's terrible. Shout out to Lord Addict, man. Without you, this would not be possible. So shout out to that. And shout out to Lord Anchorman for coming through us in our 11th hour.
Oh, yes.
That's right.
Saving the Lords from defeat.
He said the Lord of sickness.
And of course, our most technical gaming Lord, the solo gamer who lives for the single player, selfish experience. Online Switch profile this week.
Oh, yes.
Lord Sovereign, how you doing, sir?
Doing fantastic, man. Excited, man. Friday was a good day for gaming. Another little over a week. Got the X coming in. So, yeah, man, just good times. Good times all around.
Absolutely. I see you've been playing. I saw that profile. I was very happy on my heart.
150 moons in.
Wow.
We're going to talk about that. Definitely. And of course, the excess gamer.
Ooh.
The Lord of Combat Sports, who is a man of his convictions and demands nothing less than the premium experience.
Ooh.
Beloved Lord King, how are we doing, sir?
We're doing fantastic. Hey, guys, I know I don't need to tell you, our guys across the pond was popping last night in combat sports. Also, we have the UFC bang 'em up, bang 'em out. Let's get down to boxing real quick. And, because that's the senior guy in the room. Then we get over to your UFC. Boxing, we had Anthony Joshua in the main event versus Takam. Takam was a late sub-in for a boxer that he was fighting, which was his mandatory. It was an overmatched fight. Again, Anthony Joshua, I would like for you to step up and fight somebody noteworthy. Please stop fighting these tomato cans. Then you had Dylan White fighting another tomato can. Eddie Hearn. You're tearing up boxing. You are the smuck that is the guck that is messing it all up. And over to UFC. Listen, I'm high on Bronson. All right, I'm just gonna give you the headline card. I'm high on Bronson, and I was high on Bronson going in versus Machida. I thought that he gave Anderson Silva too much respect in his last fight, and to me he won, but he didn't get the decision because listen, he wasn't the name.
Gotcha.
But in this fight, he went head up with Machida.
There was no doubt in this fight. Yeah, we saw that.
Machida tried to do an inside combo like he does because he counters, and Man, that hit was spectacular. I posted it on Twitter.
Beautiful knockout.
It was a beautiful knockout. It was a done. It was done. You can actually watch the whole fight in under 2 minutes. I retweeted that out. It was fantastic. So yes, I had a great time in combat sports last night.
Next week's card is going to be fantastic.
Yes, the same thing with boxing, guys. Tune in. We have, listen, UFC and boxing is going head up every other night, and this has been one of the best years that we've ever had in combat sports. It's been fantastic. I love the ride. Listen, I would like to give a shout out to Plantronics for hooking up every last member of the Tick Network, I believe, the whole network, but I know all the Iron Lords got the headsets. They're beautiful. They work fantastic, as you can hear. Shout out to Plantronics. Shout out to Plantronic Rigs. I sound fantastic. Dolby Atmos is beautiful.
Look at you bougie with Dolby Atmos.
Oh, yes. But none of this would be possible without Lord Cognito's diligent work and effort in pushing forward and getting sponsors and doing this. So I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. These headsets are fantastic, and every time I put them on, I'm gonna think of you, bro.
Much appreciated, Lord King. That's why you are our resident Lord and the Lord of Combat Sports. Glad everyone's enjoyed it. And of course, we have family back at the round table.
Yes.
One of the original Iron Lords who helped build the ILP from the very beginning, and our resident PC / Mr. Bullets Brain himself, my man, Lord Swat. How are we doing, sir?
Doing well. Good to be back. Happy to be here. Looking forward to get some talks, and we got some great topics. I can't wait. Chomping at the bit.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Don't forget, he's the whatchamacallit. He's the T-shirt designer.
He's our resident model.
Yes, he's the resident.
That handsome gentleman on the Iron Lord Podcast Twitter. Stunting those beautiful Iron Lord Podcast shirts. Please reach out to us.
He's a designer and the model. Yes,
and of course, it's Lord Cognito here, spreading that gaming realness on the ILP. Not telling you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. So before we get into what the Lords are playing, I want to start with Lord Dreamcast, his video game system history, including his amazing passion for Sega games, of course, his channel, and that keep dreaming movement. So Lord Dreamcast, let's start from the beginning. Like, we know you as Lord Dreamcast, but was that the first system that you had? Like, what was your first video game system?
My first memory ever is actually playing the Atari 2600. Like, literally, if I go back into my mind, the first thing I could ever think of is being 4 years old, and I'm sitting on the floor, and my dad gave me Big Bird's Big Egg Hunts. So I was literally playing this super awful. I mean, you literally catch eggs and nothing else. And what's funny is I didn't really discover Dreamcast, or I didn't really discover any Sega consoles at all until I was probably 13 or 14. I lived in like a totally Nintendo neighborhood. But as soon as I discovered Sega, it was like this totally new chapter. The first time I ever saw a Dreamcast, it was playing Sonic Adventure. And it was just like, it was like seeing the future, because I'd played so much PlayStation and I'd played so much like Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64, but that was the first time I saw like super like what games that were trying to have realism instead of just cool graphics. And it instantly won me over.
Nice. Now let me back you up a little bit, because you did say like the Atari, right? So I want to transition everything prior to Dreamcast, right? So what was like the first system, I guess, that you played consistently after that, after like that Atari?
I would say,
if you can remember.
Probably the Super Nintendo. We had an original Nintendo, but I was very, very poor. So we only, as far as I remember, we only had Mario and Duck on it. You know, the combo cart.
Yeah, of course.
We played that a lot, but it was one of those things where, since I was born in 1986, even at that point, it wasn't super current. But when I was 5 years old, we got the Super Nintendo, and that thing became life. I mean, we'd play the really bad wrestling games, and Aladdin. We used to play Aladdin all the time, and that was the first time I ever saw an RPG was Final Fantasy IV, and it seemed so giant. I thought that it was playing a Nintendo 64 game on a Super Nintendo. I literally didn't even understand how you could have a game so big and so well written. Even as a little kid, I was like, oh my god, these are adult games.
I love it. I love the passion. That's awesome. So then, all right. Again, prior to that, now, did you have? Because a lot of the lords here are Sega kids. So I'm just quite like, did you have any Sega systems prior to that? What was just prickling into? Wow, that's an interesting transition.
Yeah. So, and what kind of got me on the whole thing is since we were so poor, I'd only buy consoles basically after they were canceled, and my mom ended up buying me a Dreamcast in 2002. So long after it failed. But it was this interesting little toy, and one day I was at a party in high school, and I had the Game Boy Advance SP had just come out, and I had the Game Boy Advance SP, and I was playing at this party because I'm a total loser. And this guy walked up to me.
You're a gamer, sir. You're a gamer.
Exactly. And this guy walked up to me and said, "Hey, man, like I've really been wanting a Game Boy Advance SP. Like I'll trade you for that, even though you just got it. I'll give you 100 Dreamcast games." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, do you have a Dreamcast, right?" I was like, "Yeah, but I don't really use it." And so he literally went out to his car and he came back with 100 Dreamcast games, and I just right there. And so I spent the next couple of years just playing through hundreds of Dreamcast games. And so at that point they were in stores for like $2 each. So I just basically became dedicated to collecting every Dreamcast game and beating every Dreamcast game. And it was a 10-year journey, but I did it.
You've met the Lord of Games. He actually chose you. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird that you say it. He comes up to you, he sees what you have, and he says, "I have a trunk full of better." Like, who? Like a trunk full of better. That's our dream. That's a wet dream. That like me sitting inside at a party, I'm playing something in my hand, and somebody comes and says, "I got 100 games inside the car for you for that." Take it now.
Listen, that's like destiny. That was like it was meant to be for long.
That man put you on your path. He put you on your path.
Yes. So I actually ran into that guy just a couple weeks ago, like after not talking to him for like 12 years. And I told him, I was like, "Dude, I actually do this big YouTube thing and I call myself DreamcastGuy. You put that love of Dreamcast." And he was just like, nice. "Yeah, bro." He's like, "It's no big deal. It's no big deal." I'm like, "No, it's a big deal for me, man."
The Lord of Games.
That is hot. Oh, cool. All right, so now we fast forward to that Dreamcast. And you got those 100 games, you got all that. So what were your like standouts? Because the Dreamcast, I know for the Lord, a lot of us, it's near and dear to our hearts too. You know, we really love that system. Yeah. You know, just the design of it, everything about it in those launch games. So what were the games that really stood out for Lord Dreamcast?
I think early on, one of the first games that just like melted my brain was Phantasy Star Online. Just like it was so gorgeous for the time, like just crazy beautiful. And there was a trick in that game where if you plugged a separate controller into slot 4 on the Dreamcast, it would actually be like a camera. You could actually tilt it around and look around the environment more freely. And so I used to just like literally clear out an entire dungeon and then just walk around and like look at the details on the walls and stuff. Just it felt like, it felt like the first MMO. It felt like the first giant online built game, and it just melted my brain that was possible.
Shout out to Lord Kaibatsu in the chat. He's like, "Well, Phantasy Star Online was a trailblazer. It was what it did."
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and just having a game that it had an auto translate feature and stuff, so you could actually go online and play with people from Japan, and it would translate into really bad gobbledygook. But it was so cool to go online and and it was also one of the first times I ever got in arguments with people online because people would steal loot. People would you'd have a giant boss fight and it would just spew out like a bunch of like really expensive guns, and people would just run up and start hammering A and grabbing all the guns. And so you could typing out. I was so bad at typing. I used to type like, "Hey, dickhole, that is my."
How dare they take Lord Dreamcast's loot after he worked hard? That is pretty awesome. All right, cool, man. Yeah. I know. What about? Let me ask you this, because I know for me, Shenmue was really near and dear to my heart. Did you play any Shenmue at all? Did you get into it?
Yeah. So I played Shenmue 1, and then I actually, I'm such a hardcore Dreamcast collector, I imported the European version of Dreamcast 2. Wow. So I got to actually play the original version of it on all 4 discs, and wow, it's just such an experience, and it was so weird. So I ended up beating Shenmue 1 and 2 back to back within like a couple month period, and since it is such a cliffhanger ending, I remember the second Shenmue 2 ended, I actually sat down and I hand wrote a letter to Sega in Japan asking them to make a Shenmue 3. I think this was probably
Salute this man. Yeah, like I said, it's funny you said it because for us, like Lord King will tell you, like I remember when he brought Shenmue over to my house for the first time, and like we dimmed the lights, and it was like this cinematic, and we were already martial arts fans as it was. And it was like the first game graphically that had like that Virtual Fighters engine, 3D.
Yeah.
It looked amazing, and it was just that whole cinematic between Ryo's Pop and Landy. And just to see the choreo, we were like blown away. Like that guy, you had to sleep, you had to get a job. Remember, like you had the part. There's a part where there was an arcade where it had literally emulations of classic Sega games like Outrun and Hang On and all that stuff.
That game had so much hidden stuff as well that you have to like basically buy the strategy. When you buy the strategy guide, the official strategy guide had a sealed part at the back that said, "Warning, if you break this, you're going to discover all the secrets of the game." And you'd open it up and it told you that you could go down to the store and there was actually like, there was all this candy and stuff you could buy. And there was a particular candy all the way at the end that had a red box and it said lottery candy. And like every 15th piece, you'd win a prize. And the most rare prize was actually Sega Saturn games. You could go back to the house, get a Sega Saturn out of Ryu's room. It's like in his living room. You actually hook it up, but you can only keep it hooked up if you have Sega Saturn games. You actually put them in there and it lets you play like a different version of Outrun and stuff. Yes,
wow,
in the original. I know.
It emulated the Saturn? Wow.
Yeah, yes. And it was one of those things where it was so crazy to be like, how the hell? Like, man, it was just crazy. It was crazy.
Wow. See, I love get some new information every day. This is great, man.
So going to the Saturn thing really quickly, since is Saturn a thing that you have an affinity for, a love for, or is it?
Now, but I only discovered that in 2013. I finally decided to start collecting for, because at that point I had every Dreamcast game. I had about 100 Sega Genesis games, some Master System stuff, and I have about 20 32X games. And so I was like, oh, well, there's this other disc-based system that I've literally never played. I'd never even seen a Sega Saturn in my life until I bought one. And so the first time I ever stumbled on one, this guy was selling it at like a crappy flea market. And he was like, all right, I'm missing the wires, but it's this and 10 loose copies of Frankenstein, like, for the Sega Saturn. It's like, do you want it for $50? And I was like, yeah, sure. So now I have a bunch of loose, like really bad loose Sega Saturn games, but I actually have I think I've got about 25 Sega Saturn games now. Some of the rare ones I've got like a stall and stuff.
Clockwork Knight, Clockwork Knight was awesome.
It is, and Clockwork Knight is so good, and it's weird that it's so good, like because it's so polished and the music is so addictive and the level design is so good. It's one of those things where it's like it's so weird that it just got so overlooked. Like it is an amazing freaking game, and they came out with it and then its sequel 16 months later because the first one bombed so hard they were like, all right, you have to make another right now. We're not going to break even.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out to Lord Diz in the chat, Clockwork Tower Night, some great ones there. People, the chat is warming up, man. They're loving these games. Yes,
Mr. Bones. Yeah, I love Mr. Bones.
Yes, Mr. Bones is. Yes, yeah. Well, and I ended up getting a bunch of that. I imported some of the 2D fighters, and I imported a bunch of Japanese Sega Saturn games because they're dirt cheap. And if you have an action replay, you can still play them. So I got the Japanese version of Grandia because I'm obsessed with RPGs. I got
that's great.
There's a bomber game. One of the only Bombermans that didn't come to America is called Super Bomberman Fight, and it's like it's isometric. It looks super weird, but I ended up doing that. So yeah, big Sega Saturn fan.
Shout out to Get Good Gaming in the chat. He's like, damn it, I have to get a Saturn now.
Hell yeah.
No doubt. So let's transition, Logic. So obviously we know how near and dear that was to your heart. So as gaming went on, what were the next transitionary steps for you as far as the next systems that you got?
Well, I ended up getting an original Xbox. I lived next to this, even though I lived in a really poor part of town as a kid. The kid next to me, for some reason, at one point, he inherited like a couple $100,000. But since he was like 16, he didn't really do anything with it except he bought like a Mustang, and he ended up buying me an original Xbox with Halo and Mech Assault. And it was this crazy, like, eye-opening experience of like, whoa, like this is. this is so cool. So I ended up just playing hundreds of hours of Halo. I ended up going to a bunch of Halo tournaments. So I basically joined a Halo team. And so for the next couple of years, I literally paid my bills winning at Halo tournaments.
Stop. Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was interesting that I noticed a lot of, people who either grew up with Sega or Sega kids, kind of like, it almost seems like the natural evolution for them was Xbox for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always sense that.
I ended up researching, and I found out that a lot of the team basically, since Microsoft was really heavy into the development of the Xbox but hadn't finalized any of the designs, as soon as Sega went under, apparently they literally just had poachers just walk in there and start being like, hi, who wants an application? Apply. So a lot of the people who designed the controller, who designed the idea of VMUs, a lot of those people came over. And that's why I think Xbox managed to fix a lot of the problems the Dreamcast had. They're like, okay, it has to have a DVD player. It has to have a cable modem built in. It needs a built-in hard drive right away. Like they definitely were like, okay, let's skip the small pitfalls the Dreamcast had so we don't make the same mistake twice.
That's actually a valid point because back during the Dreamcast era, that was the issue. Like the modem was separate, right? They also had that, which was kind of cool. What did they call it? The memory card unit?
The visual memory unit, VMU.
Yes, visual memory. Now, did that thing? I'm trying to remember. Fresh my memory, Lords. Like, would that thing had like separate games? But most of the time, it was just like enhancements to existing titles, right?
Yeah, you was able to download. I liked it for Sega Adventure, Sonic Adventure, because you were able to take your little guys with you and raise them in your pockets like a Tamagotchi. So it was their version because Tamagotchi was blowing up so big, and they said if we can get something like that on the go and have a visual unit in the front, which I thought Microsoft was going to try to do when they put the the X in the middle, and it was gigantic on the old Duke controller, which they're doing actually now. But I love the VMU for the fact that it popped out, and when I went to your house, I put my VMU in your controller, my control schemes, and everything was there.
Retain settings. Yeah, I forgot about it. Dreamcast is so ahead of his time, man.
Way ahead of his time. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, it was the best. It had so many cross-platform games, and the best version would be on Dreamcast. Like I'm obsessed with Resident Evil, and I always had to play everything on the Dreamcast because when you looked at your controller, it'd say the amount of bullets you had left in your clip.
Yes.
Since there was no, like in those early games, the only way to see that was to pause it. So only on the Dreamcast could I see, okay, I got 3 more shots before I'm going to have to reload, so I got to run.
Absolutely. So I've had memories with that stuff too, man. Oh, the heartstrings, the feels, man. Shout out to Peter Moore, man. I mean, they were so aggressive during that time, and I felt that was supposed to be the one. Like this was supposed to be the one for them, as a Sega kid. So that's cool, man. So moving on. So then, like I said, you got on the Xbox, you got that going and stuff like that. And now, obviously, the original Xbox success wasn't as long lasting. So, we had the PlayStation come up next. Did you then transition to that? Like, what was the next evolution for you?
I got a PlayStation 2 late in the console generation just for the RPGs. I had a weird thing where I ended up buying Final Fantasy X 4 separate times because I kept having PlayStation 2s broken. There was a time where I finally saved up and I bought it, and then someone broke into my house and stole it when I was about halfway through the game. So I just basically quit at a certain point where it's like, okay, look, like the gaming lords do not want me to have.
The Lord, it's not meant to be.
Like it's like I am completely willing to admit that that's just not in my cards. So I didn't really get into PS2 until much later. Now I have hundreds of PS2 games, but at the time I just ended up going from Xbox to Xbox 360.
Got you. Okay,
I had a lot of issues with PS2 as well.
I know. A lot of people did say that sometimes. So pretty much now, just real quick, ranking. Like obviously we know Dreamcast is up there. Look, I was gonna ask you, what overall was your second favorite system?
I'd probably put the PS4 really near the top. I know that sounds crazy because it's currently going on, but we're just in an age now of like such an indie revolution. It's cool that I own 202 PS4 games, which sounds crazy, but so much that are like I love twin stick shooters, I love puzzle games, I love really big open world stuff. I've gotten into racing games as I've gotten older, and all of that is incredibly awesome in 50 different flavors on my PlayStation 4. That's something I've never seen before.
Nice. And last question as far as gaming is concerned, I'm going to do something new with the guests. So I want you to give me like some of your top 5 games of all time. If you could narrow it down to 5 of all time.
Okay, totally off the top of my head, I would say Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, Skies of Arcadia on the Dreamcast version of Skies of Arcadia.
The best.
Okay. I'd say, and this could be a controversial one, but I'd probably say Alan Wake on the Xbox 360. I think that is one of the best horror games. As cliche as it is, it's fucking awesome.
The writing.
I gotta back you up because I watched your video and you had that as one of the worst endings of all time when you get left.
It is, but if you get the DLC, it's all. I don't know. I think it keeps going.
Yeah, it keeps it going. Yeah.
And then I really love. Let's see, Silent Hill 2. I would say is one of the best.
Oh yeah.
Let me think for my fifth one. Oh gosh, I'd say Final Fantasy 7.
Yes. Okay. That's an impressive list.
That's a great list.
That's a great list, no doubt. All right, so then we got that going on. So let's talk about the start of the whole Keep Dreaming movement and that amazing channel that you have. Like, when did that start for you?
Way back. I first started the channel and I made my first videos in like 2008. And then I put it down for like many years. But originally I saw the Angry Video Game Nerd videos. And I've always been a type of person of like, when I see something cool, I want to make it. Like if I read a cool book, I want to write a cool book. So when I watched the Angry Video Game Nerd videos, I immediately went, I can make that. And so I actually ended up making several Dreamcast reviews that were very Angry Video Game Nerd in style. Like I just tried to emulate his writing and everything. Basically what I did is I didn't understand what a capture card was. So my first videos, I literally set up a webcam aimed at my TV and it was perfectly set up so that it would be like the dimensions of it. So it kind of looks like a capture card until like bright colors would show up and then the auto filter would screw up. But I just basically would play the game and then edit the footage and then do really like dumb voiceover and then have like cutaways of me being like, excuse me while I interrupt my own video and make fun of this weird clip. It was basically just DreamcastGuy tries to be Angry Video Game Nerd very badly.
Nice. And then as you progressed, what made you like stick with it and continue on?
Well, I put it down for a long time because I ended up just losing my job and roaming for about 5 years. And then I picked it back up in 2013. I just randomly started watching a bunch of YouTube videos and I saw just rant videos. It was the first time I'd ever seen somebody just sit down in front of a collection and talk for like 10 minutes. And it was so interesting, but more than that, it was so simple. It was the first time it just like smacked me in the face of like, oh, it's just whatever. Like anybody can be a YouTuber. That's the best part of this website is literally like just sit down on camera. And if you have something fun to say with more passion than your rivals, you will get views. And so I just started doing rants and then I started experimenting because I've always liked writing. So I experimented with like writing reviews and it just snowballed over the course of the last couple of years.
Nice. Now, next question I always wanted to know this is how did they Keep Dreaming the slogan? When did you start it? What influenced that?
It's my first video ever, all the way at the beginning. I just needed a catchphrase. I literally didn't have any idea. What's funny is the first mean comment I ever got in 2008 is for some reason in my first video, I'm wearing a fedora because I thought that was so cool. And the lighting is really bad. And so the scarring on my face looked even worse. And I went, keep dreaming. And the first mean comment I ever get said, I bet you want to keep dreaming, you Freddy Krueger looking motherfucker.
Wow. He went in. Wow. He went in. Oh, man. The savages of the internet. Savages.
I was like, all right, I deserve that. That's a good one. Better lighting. I got you, bro.
No, one thing we respect is everybody loves you. It's just that positive energy you have. And, everything just rubs off your skin. And you're just a cool channel to watch. I came across, again, shout out to Lord Attic. He couldn't make it. He's hurting that he couldn't be here for this because he's also a fan of yours. And he introduced me, overall to your channel. But I was just like going through your vids and I'm like, I love this guy. This guy's hilarious, man. He's just great energy. Shout out to Lord Megatron. You got people in the chat right now who's saying they're just coming across your channel. He just subscribed to you. Super thumbs up. And we love what you're doing out here, man. So that's cool, man. Nice.
It's really my pleasure. It's so fun. Like that's the craziest thing of all. Like obviously, since this is my job, there are some times where I'm up to like 3 a.m. editing and I'm tired. But for the most part, it is just so damn fun. Like it's like one of the things. My job very much is talking about video games. I've just been playing Mario Odyssey all weekend, and I'm writing a script about Mario Odyssey, and it's just like, man, this is what pays my freaking bills. Like I'm such a freaking lucky dude.
How cool
That's
is that? In your mentality, it all comes across. You know, again, we appreciate you, man. So we're gonna get into what the Lords are playing this week. Obviously, it's a big gaming week. So we'll start off with Lord Dreamcast. I know you said Odyssey. Anything else you touch this week?
Yeah, I beat Wolfenstein 2 because I got Wolfenstein 2 a couple days early, and holy gosh, Wolfenstein is a freaking masterpiece. It is so freaking good.
Okay. Can't wait. We're gonna get into that more one of the segments. That's cool. I'm glad you're saying that because giving my confidence for the game. That's awesome. Lord Sub, what have you been playing this week?
Just Mario. I've had Mario since Wednesday, and I've just been going in.
Who did that? Mr. Lee? Mr. Lee did that?
Who? I don't know who you're talking about, man. I don't know that
We
person.
talk about
I don't know that
illegal
person.
situations.
I don't know that person.
trying to get him arrested.
So that's about it. I mean, it was difficult not to hop in on Wolfenstein and Assassin's Creed. You know, to get that itch, you go on to the.
Trust me, it's hard. Oh, it's hard, man. Lord Dreamcast, just so you know, we planning on we saw all of us for the most part on the panel planning on getting the X, and we kind of had like a pact that we're gonna wait till November 7th to play those games. Yeah. It's hard right now, man.
It's not hard at all. Those games didn't release yet. You guys are in the future.
Continue, Losov. I'm sorry.
It's just about conditioning your mind to they're not actually there. But yeah, I mean, but Mario's been keeping me kind of busy, man. Mario is fantastic. Well, I know we'll talk more about it in a little bit, but it's just
talk about more about the Murderous Roast too. Lord King, what have you been playing this week?
I've been playing Destiny. I'm disheartened at a lot of things. I'm disheartened at the fact that people are running around with this rhetoric. If you say something long enough, people start to believe it. And once people starts to believe the rhetoric, then they start to act on the rhetoric. And there's a lot of rhetoric going around talking about Destiny is dead. Destiny is not dead. There's a lot of things to do in Destiny. I know a couple of people that are in a couple of clans I won't mention that at this day and age are at 265. I had to go in there and work with people's clanmates to get them up. I don't like the fact that, you know, my own clan, the leader is going around saying, you know, Destiny is dead. You can't be the leader of the clan talking about Destiny is dead.
Wow.
You know, it starts to filter down within the clanmates. I play every day. I take you through Prestige, Nightfalls. We do raids. We do everything. You know, hone your skills. I'm supposed to pick up Mario today, and I'm gonna pick it up, and I'm gonna play it today.
You did not pick up Mario Odyssey.
I had so many things going on, and I want the physical copy of it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right. So yeah, I could have hit the button and
like why you didn't just hit the button? Digital life, baby.
I really want the physical of it because I have all like the Mario Galaxies, all the physicals, and it's just something about looking over at your stack. And you know, certain games is there, and you're like, yeah, you can't take that away from me. So you know that type of thing.
From the collective standpoint, you got that physical media. Yeah, I feel you. No doubt. All right, cool. And Lord SWAT, I know your topic later will be that Destiny 2 PC, but besides that, is there anything else you've been playing this week?
To be honest, it's been kind of light for me because I kind of took a step back from games and I'm learning how to code like Java, Python, Ruby. I'm trying to kind of build up another technical aspect and things.
But the technical gaming Lord trying to take Soft's title.
But yeah, I've been playing Destiny 2 on the PC primarily for the past week, and I also picked up Pokken Tournament just out of curiosity, and I actually do find that pretty fun as well.
Nice. So you staying away from the Goddessy on the Switch? Because I know you're a Switch gang like us. So you stayed away or you just waiting?
I just haven't made my way out. I'm with David. I gotta have that physical copy of that.
I got you. Waiting on that physical. Any amiibos in there or no?
Oh yeah.
We know King is King Amiibo. Just want to make sure.
Oh, by the way, I'm jealous. Crazy jealous. I saw your amiibos, and I'm crazy jealous. Right now, I got the feeling in my chest, and it's burning me. You had that little hat on, and I'm sitting there like, oh my God, I got to get to the store right now. I really felt jealousy. I'm not lying.
It's all good. No doubt. So of course, me, Lord Cognito here. Yes, I mean it's been tough for me. It's Murderers Row week, as we know. October 27th was that.
I don't think Mario came out. What are you talking about?
You funny. You're hilarious.
Yeah.
Some other games did come out too that we'll discuss that I've been waiting on. But I touched the Odyssey a little bit this week, and yeah, man, I was just we'll get into it, but. I've been having some fun with that, but surprisingly, there's still this little indie game on the Nintendo eShop. This Is the Police has my mind wrapped. I am in love with this game. It again, it's a lot of simulation and resource management, kind of like on XCOM style, but you're managing personalities. It has some of the best writing ever. I believe the voice actor is from Duke Nukem. And I'm telling y'all right now, this game pushes social and morality boundaries. They test you. Let's just say that. Like, I mean, just not to spoil too much, but it was like, I played as soon as the game started, City Hall was like, there's riots in the street, there's race riots, there's this going on. I need you to fire all your, African-American officers. I'm like, what type of game is this? This game is nuts. I'm telling y'all right now, like, it's not only it's well written, it's funny, and you get emotionally invested. I believe right now it's been on Xbox One and PS4 for a while. It just came to the Nintendo eShop. It's a mature rated game. Shout out to Nintendo for even allowing this content on the platform, because to me that shows maturity. Like that, a game like this can be on it. But if you have, I know it's Murderers Row week, but maybe if it's on sale down the road, pick up This Is the Police. This game, I believe it's Weapon Game Studios. Shout out to them. They hit me back on Twitter. I am in love with this thing. I cannot stop playing this game. Yes, Anchorman, I did fire that older lady officer. She came to work drunk sometimes, and I had enough of her. So she had to go. I'm sorry, her work before. Wow. And they did a choice. They're like, do you want to fire her legally? Or do you want to fire her? If you want to see screenshots, check Lord Cognito's Twitter or check my timeline. I've got a lot of screenshots of this game, and I get emotionally invested. Like, it's hilarious. So if you want a good laugh, check out my Twitter line. You'll bug out. So that's what I've been rocking with this week.
Oh, quickly. Just I completely forgot. Wolverblade. You've been talking about it for the past few weeks. You've been talking about it for the past few weeks. If you are an old school gamer that's into Streets of Rage, Shinobi, any of these side-scrolling like beat 'em ups, shmups, this is the game for you. It took me a couple of weeks before I really fell into what Cognito was talking about, but honestly, it's a beautiful game. It's bloody as hell. It's just honestly like it just scratches that itch of those old school side scroller beat 'em ups. Like if you're a fan of Guardian Heroes or Streets of Rage, get this game. Fantastic.
Absolutely. It is really good, man. Those guys. I mean, all I need from it, if they could somehow come up with like an online patch, that's the only thing that's missing from it, because it has co-op. It has local co-op. But it's really good, man. Shout out to Wolverblade. I'm gonna keep bigging you guys up. I believe it's Fully Illustrated Studios, Michael Held and those guys. That is a masterpiece, and the voice acting and just the cinematics, like they've really made a production out of a $20 game. And guys, yeah, you guys need to check it out. Wolverblade, salute. So let's get into the show. We got a lot to discuss, but we had a poll last week, so the poll results are in, and the people have spoken to the question: if serious allegations, aka ethical, sexual, were made against a publisher or developer of your favorite video game franchise, would you honestly not purchase the game? The winner at 54% in one of the most controversial ILP polls ever is the no. This won't stop me from buying the game group.
I'm truly surprised that the numbers is that close. I mean, really, come on.
No.
Go for it.
It's actually not. Coming in at second at only 25% was the yes, I can't support that game and neither should you group. Yes. And hilariously, because remember it was three choices, coming in at 21%, very close third place, was, but how serious are those allegations now? So thanks to all who participated in the poll. I want to bring it to the round table. What do the Lords think about this? Let's start with Lord DreamcastGuy.
Yeah,
I think it depends on the level of the offense. So my thing is, like, if it turns out that I'm sure you guys heard the head of Uber, like this dude was like basically hiring, like he would hire and surround himself with just like attractive women and then just basically be like, all right, blow me or you're fired. Like he was a piece of
That sounds like This Is the Police. That's the game. That's how the game is. Sorry, continue.
And so since that dude was messed up, as long as he was at the company, I wouldn't use Uber. Just because we're where it's like, I don't want to give any money that I know is going to go into that dude's pocket that then he's going to basically like abuse people with. So I feel like I love Rockstar games. I love Square Enix. I'm a big like Final Fantasy addict. And if I found out like somebody at Square Enix was just being crazy, I think I'd have a giant issue. And as much as I love Final Fantasy, I'd buy a used copy to make sure they didn't get my profit or something. But if we're talking like a low level employee is like patting asses or something, I'm like, all right, that dude sucks. That dude sucks and needs to be fired, but I'm not going to punish the 200 people on his team.
Right. Hey, what you just said was what was the consensus on the Iron Lord podcast Twitter. Shout out to everyone who participated because that's what they were saying. They were like, look, obviously depends on the offense, but it's kind of what you said. Like the mentality was like, if one person, you had one bad apple who did something, I'm not going to allow that to affect the purchase of, the work of the majority of the group. So they kind of repeated what you just said, Lord Dreamcast. Sounds cool. So, Lord King, how do you feel about that? I know that was a hot button for you.
I'm gonna start and preface this with I'm shallow. All right. All right. I'm giving a shout out to the shallows that's here and the people that kept it real. I really don't think this thing should have been anywhere close because you're lying. You're lying to me. I don't care what you say. Listen, he just said the head of Uber was had some stuff going on. And you know what I said to myself with that header Uber, you got that stuff going on, that's nice for you. That doesn't have anything to do with the Uber drivers that's picking me up right now. I'm so sorry. I mean, listen, he could be
they're calling you the Lord of Shallow.
That's right. Yo, listen, you could be the face of the company. That's your business. There's other employees that have absolutely nothing to do with that. Tom has to pay his mortgage. And trust me, Tom, I got you. I'm buying that game 100%. I don't care that he was doing organ swiping and selling organs on the black market. I really don't care about that part of it. I'm picking up Mario Sunshine. I'm doing what I gotta do.
Lord Dreamcast, you see what we're doing?
I mean, it's the absolute facts. Listen, he gave me another avenue too. I didn't even know it was that option I could buy it used. I stand right there and wait for somebody to bring that copy in if I want to stand on my moral soapbox. But trust me, I'm not. I'm buying that copy brand new.
Shout out to Lord Shallow, aka Lord King.
I'm a gamer.
We got a new poll cooking up on ILP Twitter at the end, so make sure you stay tuned for that. So we're going to get into these topics, y'all. All right, so I'll start up first at the round table. It was a great week of gaming. This week is what I've affectionately called the Murderer's Row of October 27th. It is here. So I want to bring this to the Lord. Obviously, Mario Odyssey, a.k.a. Mario Godyssey, dropped. We had Assassin's Creed Origins, and of course, thanks to Lord Dreamcast's amazing impressions video and Anchorman V. Shout out to Anchorman V on his Twitter, for basically giving some non-spoilery impressions of that Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus. So I'm going to bring it to Lord Dreamcast first, since he's our guest. Out of the three, have you played each of the three? And if you have, the ones that you have played of the Murderer's Row, I just want some basic impressions, early impressions, spoiler free, of course.
Yeah, I haven't played Assassin's Creed Origins, but I'm going to. I have Assassin's Creed Origins sitting on my desk right now, installing on the PS4. I have beaten both Mario Odyssey and Wolfenstein, and they're both really good. I guess I want to start with Mario Odyssey and say it's incredibly surprising. Like, it seems like it may have been done by a different team. There's so many subtle touches that are so different. Like they'll show Bowser, and Bowser will get hit in the face with a shell, and it'll zoom in on his hand, and his hand will twitch. There's a lot of subtle animation differences. The world structure is different. Mario even runs at a different speed than what we're used to. So I liked just being so caught off guard by Mario again. It really feels like the first time you picked up Mario 64. What the hell is this? What are these worlds? What is this new Cappy ability? So I have to say, gameplay is revolutionized in all the ways I didn't know I wanted.
Nice. Nice. Now, what about now I know you did your Wolfenstein. Let's go right into that. Now, you've been raving.
Hell yeah.
Is it worth the price of admission for anybody that was on the fence, or a guy like me who never really played the Wolfenstein games like that?
100%. I will put my reputation on the line that this game is going to be remembered. I think as much as it's as good or nearly as good as something like BioShock. It's one of those games that tells you a story you didn't see coming. It really goes into the backstory of a guy who's willing to die fighting Nazis. Like, not that BJ Blazkowicz dies, but they really go into his past and show sections of his childhood and tell why he wanted to join in the fight for America against the Nazis, even though at this point Nazis are walking around in giant robots and shooting lasers. He was willing to pick up a crappy little pistol and fight just because some people would rather die doing something good than be happy doing something bad, you know? So good. And let's not forget the fact that you get to shoot the hell out of Nazis. There's a new thing where you can
salute that.
Always a great thing.
You can upgrade guns now.
Not to cut you off, but I love the marketing that Bethesda is doing, or Machine Studios, whatever they're doing for it, where it's like this is not to get political. They're like, these are not good people. Like the marketing for the team who's doing Wolfenstein 2 is amazing. But continue, look, Dreamcast.
So on that topic, did you see that Vice News did an interview with Pete Hines, the head of marketing for Bethesda, and they asked him, like, don't you think that you're actually poking the hornet's nest a bit by really trying to stir up the Nazis? And Pete Hines goes, well, we believe we may be poking the hornet's nest, but it's a hornet's nest full of Nazis, and fuck Nazis.
No doubt. You gotta commend him, man. You gotta commend him for really going for it and pushing the boundaries. So yeah, that thing's looking good. You know, I'm trying to stay strong, you know what I'm saying, for the Xbox One X version. But I'm hearing so many great things. And now let me ask you about the third game of Murderer's Row, which was that Assassin's Creed Origins. Have you got a chance to touch it at all, or you should be with the other two?
Not at all. I can't. It's one of those things where work-wise, I can't start playing it until I finish my script for Mario Odyssey, just because I'm sure this is going to it's going to seep into my brain. I'm going to start being like, hey, climbing this is great, but climbing an Assassin's Creed, let's make that comparison. So unfortunately, I can't turn it on for a couple more hours. But then as soon as I do, my plan is actually to play it for like 10 hours today and do at least an impressions video for tomorrow. So I'm definitely going to be doing all day with Assassin's Creed.
Awesome.
Gotcha. Fantastic. Lord Sav, out of the three, two we know don't exist for you.
Yeah.
So that's that Xbox One X premium talk. Well, as far as the Goddess, I know that's what you've been rocking. So talk to us. Spoiler-free impressions.
I think it's amazing. It's one of the few games that I can recall. I stop and I catch myself smiling while I'm playing it, because it's just delightful. At every corner, honestly, they've taken what's best about Mario in 3D and they've just blown it out completely. They've taken the best aspects of Mario over the years and they've given you a little bit of that in this game without. They're making it very accessible. It's not as hard a game as past Mario 3D Mario games. Something that Lord Dreamcast said that graphically the game for what it is so crisp, and the way it feels, and it's like a lot of the worlds aren't necessarily heavily populated, but they are sort of dense. But then you see little things like in the desert stage, you see God rays coming through and stuff like that. Like, it's a very pretty game. And to be honest, like in the past, I love Mario, but I've always fallen off because for whatever reason, like it becomes a little too daunting. There are too many stars to collect and whatnot, and like, you know, I've always fallen off. But now, like, I'm all the way in. I'm trying to get as many moons as I can before I move on to the next world. Honestly, yeah, man, like as of right now, and I'm a big Wolfenstein head and I'm a big Assassin's Creed head, it's right up there 1 and 2 for the year for me, between that and Zelda, between that and Zelda. And I might give the edge to Zelda overall because that's more my type of game. And the feeling I got from playing Zelda, to me, Zelda moved things in a different direction that I completely expected.
I'm so glad you're saying this.
But Mario is, you got to remember, Mario invented the wheel when it comes to platforming in 2D and 3D. So to me, Odyssey is a continued refinement of that wheel. Like they're just
right.
They're just continuing to improve the formula that they perfected. Honestly, no one's ever touched them. So, but it's fantastic. There's no losers here.
No doubt. So we always bend the knee to Mario for paving the way for us. No doubt. So, Lord King, I know you. 2 games of the Murderer's Row don't exist for you as well. I know you're waiting on Mario. So my question to you is: out of the 3 Murderer's Row, what's the game you're most excited to play first? Like, it's based on what you've seen.
Assassin's Creed, like, when I played it at E3, and shout out to FanFest, Microsoft, you're the greatest. Lord Phil.
Salute.
You're the man, baby. I told
our Lord and Savior, Xbox only begotten Son.
Did you see he retweeted my joint and he liked my comment? Yeah, Phil, we here with you, baby. The vision is almost here. We're about to realize what your vision truly is. Assassin's Creed looks like the culmination of all their hard work. And this is, I know it's not over for them, but it seems like this is their end game. This is what they were building to. And the combat system, from what I touched, was fantastic. The graphics, we already know it was top notch. The scrambling, the moving, the interactions with the NPCs in the city, it looked beautiful. I didn't get a chance to hear it. I didn't get a chance to hear the fidelity. And then shout out to Plantronics for giving me these great headsets and Adobe Atmos that I will be listening to that game with. I can't wait. Seriously, it's all coming together. The graphic fidelity, the headphones, sick. I can't wait. But as far as Mario goes, which I'll be picking up today and I'm going to play today because those other games come out in the future, and you guys are futurists. You're fantastic to the Tony Starks in you who play these games. I wish I lived in a future portal. I don't.
No doubt. No. Okay, look, I got to ask you a question. Did you finish that?
Yeah, but I look forward to Mario, and just like Lord Sovereign said, it's not a reinventing of the wheel, it's a refinement of the wheel. They just gave you tires on this little buggy wheel that they've been building, and no one has been able to touch them. Like he said, they are the pioneers in 2D platforming, which was phenomenal. Can't touch them there. People are still doing speed runs in regular Mario. Come on, look at that. It's crazy, right? Now, to this day. Trying to beat the high score is crazy. And then, like, from Sunshine to Galaxy to Odyssey, they are doing their thing, and I wish they can get some of that magic on a Sonic. I really wish they can sprinkle that on the Sonic, because we got the 2D Sonic down pat. This 2D Sonic that just came out is beautiful. Yeah, it's a love letter to us. Yes. Could we get some love in the 3D area? Because I'm scared to buy this what is it, Squadron Supreme Sonic that's going to come out.
Yeah, Sonic Force.
Yeah, Lord Dreamcast had a video. He had to talk to us about that Sonic Force.
Yes, please. Yeah, real quick. Please.
Yeah. Oh man. So if you make a Japanese Switch account, you can actually download a demo, and it is the worst demo I've ever played in my life.
It's a minute long. It's like a minute long.
You have access to 3 different levels: a 3D level, a 2D level, and a boss level, but you can only play each level for 60 seconds. So the second you start playing, this timer appears. And what sucks is, like, the levels are really not well designed. They're very clunky. There's lots of, like, little tiny lips. So you'll be running along at 200 miles an hour, like, yeah, this is true Sonic speed, and you just touch like a bush, dead stop instantly. Like, oh, okay, cool. And so you have to get your speed up again, and so that timer just kills you, man. And so it's like, even without the timer in the full game, it looks really bad. Like, I played that demo for an hour. I tried each demo like several times, trying to like it, and man, I ended up. I got my roommate to play it. He like came in my my office. I was like, "Let me check this out," and he played it, and he like literally stone faced plays the 60 seconds, and he's like, "All right, why did you even install this? It's not even a game."
Wow.
Wow.
So do you see my pain, right? That's my pain.
I see.
Yeah, I'm a Sega guy.
I feel you, man. I heard about that demo. It's not good. Real quick, Lord King, before I move on this one. I wanted to know what are your feelings on Wolfenstein? I haven't heard you talk about it. So
that's a purchase. No, I played on 1 and 2. I have all the DLC. Oh, by the way, the DLC for Zelda sucks. So you're not gonna get Game of the Year from me if your DLC sucks. All right.
But they make an announcement that the new DLC is coming. Not the Master Sword one, but apparently some other.
It better be something that don't suck.
Oh my god.
Damn, the gauntlet is down.
No, but listen, the game is fantastic, right? But the only way I can take a shot at the game is them, adding some aftermath stuff to it. That's it. I mean, everybody says great stuff about it, so I love the game.
Speaking of that, do you guys think we're gonna get some DLC for Mario?
Yeah.
Being that they've already, I can see it coming. Like, why not? I'll take more levels.
I have a feeling, because I actually found like a Mario 64 painting at the bottom of one level, like in one of the water levels, and I went through it and it took me to another world. So I have a feeling that they're going to do something where there's going to be like a Mario 64 style DLC level. I have a feeling that they have so much of the pieces of these other games. I think that they could straight up be like, all right, this is the Mario Galaxy DLC level, and people like me would be like, hello, here's my wallet, throwing it at the screen.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, such a financial opportunity for them to do something like that. To me, it'd be silly. And to your point earlier, Lord Dreamcast, when you were saying about the way it feels, I heard that Miyamoto didn't do this one. That it was another person as far as on the development aspect with it in conjunction with them that actually had more of a hands-on approach, because we're getting different little nuances and stuff that I've really never seen. In Mario.
The biggest thing is, man, the whole Cappy thing, taking over enemies. Like, holy hell! Like the fact that there's basically like 2 main enemies on each world, basically you can take over, and man, that just blew my mind. Like, as crazy as this, one of my favorite ones is there's this thing that looks like it's like a centipede type dude. He's like a big yellow, like cartoonish, like caterpillar. And when you take him over, you stretch out like an accordion, and you can actually stretch out over cliffs. So you're not having to basically extend. You're walking along like cliff faces and over like lava gaps and stuff, like crazy jumps that Mario could never make. And every time he extends, it actually makes an accordion noise. So it's like, it's just like it's so funny and it's so cute and it's so different than what I was expecting. It's just like, holy shit! Like, this is the game I didn't know I freaking wanted.
Wow.
Facts. I mean, again, to your point, I'll jump in real quick. When I got just the beginning, like when I got a control of the dinosaur, and like they put that funny, epic music when you have them, it makes you want to destroy stuff. It makes you like, I got so amped to like control that dinosaur. It's kind of funny. But I want to move it over to Lord SWAT right quick. Out of obviously he's been doing his Destiny 2 thing. He's got his topic with that. But out of the 3 Murderers Row, which is the ones that have you the most excited?
Well, right now I have to say Wolfenstein 2 actually sounds really good. From what Dreamcast was saying, it actually does sound like a lot of fun. But I think I'm gonna be with Lord King and have to run out really quick after this and go pick up Mario Odyssey.
Gotta do it. Gotta see. You gotta pick it up, man. It's so fun. No doubt. Yeah, man. For me, I'll just wrap this up real quick. All 3, man, fantastic. I played, like I said, the Mario, and like to Lord Sovereign's point, just the feel. I mean, I think when I play that game, I can't stop smiling. It's weird. Like, the game just makes you laugh. It makes you smile. Just all the nostalgic feels of Mario. And just one thing that really impressed me was how graphically it looks. I played the majority initially in not an undocked mode, portable mode when I was at work. And then when I brought it home, it looked fantastic there. Just the reflections, the water going off your skin, and all that stuff. And then like I brought it home and I seen the jump in docked, and I'm like, this game doesn't get enough credit for how graphically good it looks. It really looks good. And so I've been having fun with that. Assassin's Creed is an emotional thing kind of for me, like Lord King is saying. It's like, I'm a huge fan of just that whole timepiece, Egyptian, the pyramids, that whole bit. So I can't wait to dive into that. And it's kind of because I'm waiting on the Xbox One X version because I'm a console guy. So I'm just trying to hold on to November 7th. But I was very tempted. It's sitting on my hard drive. And again, with Wolfenstein, I mean, I didn't expect I would pick this game up. But again, Lord Dreamcast, your video, I mean, put me over the edge. Lord Anchorman, his tweet, I'm seeing a lot of positive stuff. And then the other thing is, because I'm waiting for the Xbox One X, that's another reason why I'm really holding out for Wolfenstein, is for understanding, that is going to be 4K 60.
Oh, whoa.
So
Yes.
I need to see that in its glory, man. I need that.
Dude, there's a scene that is going to melt your brain where at one point you literally have to climb on top of a train that is rocketing through an underground tunnel, and you're fighting robot Nazis inside of there with shotguns. And so that at 1080p 60 frames a second, you're literally going to be crying blood.
Woo! And people already said, like you said, it looks fantastic now. I can't even imagine what 4K 60. So that's going to be that's going to be like my showcase game for when I get the X. So that I'm purposely holding on to a lot of titles and Xbox One enhanced stuff for that purpose, to showcase on that game, on that system. So, and I got my 4K setup ready, so I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? But Murderous Row, man, this is a great time for gaming. We talked about this a lot, and it's here. And we even got Stranger Things going on. Life is good, right? No, so we're gonna move on to this next topic. I'm gonna get this over to Lord Sovereign. So we got some publisher issues. Insomniac, Capcom, what's going on out here, man?
All right, yeah. So it's good that we have Dreamcast here, because it's something about Insomniac and Capcom that they traditionally have made games that have been a little on the quirky side, and to me that goes right in line with what Sega used to be, right? When you had a Sega console, when you had Sega games, there was you always had your arcade ports for those were fantastic and perfect. But then they were always willing to take the risks on these smaller, quirky type of titles, and it was something that kind of identified Sega's identity to me, as being willing to do that. And these are two companies that have titles that sort of kind of can mesh into that sort of ideology. And so for me, going into the Insomniac stuff with Sunset Overdrive was an Xbox One exclusive that, by all accounts, didn't do as well as Microsoft had hoped it would do. A lot of people thought that it was a game that didn't necessarily mesh well with what Xbox is, and probably would have felt better on another system. I love the game. I know a lot of the lords picked it up at launch, if not afterwards. I know a lot of people played it once it came to Games with Gold. It's a very unique game that kind of harkens back to again, a Sega game like Jet Set Radio or Jet Grind Radio. It goes back to that sort of stuff, the mobility. And it's just something that I felt was underappreciated on a platform that tends to get looked at as, the shooter platform or something like that. So my feeling is that they're shopping around for a publisher to get a sequel done, and Microsoft has been mum on it, and it's disappointing to me, because to me, I think this is a point where Microsoft needs to continue to differentiate their portfolio and kind of expand what it means to be a Microsoft game, and kind of expand their identity. And the fact, we've gone into this in the past, how they're just not willing to take second chances on properties that didn't do as well as they had hoped. And I think it's a sad thing. I mean, it'd be great for it to go multi-plat and everybody get a chance to play this series. It'd be fantastic. But I think it's an opportunity missed for them if they don't hop into that. So that's one. And then we go into the Capcom thing, where there are rumors that they're in dire straits and that they're looking to be bought out. And this is huge if this is actually true, because I mean, it's not like we're looking at a THQ fire sale, which, they had some great properties, but it's not Capcom. When you say you're breaking up Capcom, everybody's eyes should open wide and be salivating at the mouth to pick up some of these properties.
Check out Lord Dreamcast's video on Capcom too. A lot of feels there. Yeah, go ahead. So.
Yeah.
So honestly, I mean, this is another opportunity, I think, for everybody, but especially Microsoft is sort of hurting for properties to sort of consider what would fit best on the Xbox platform. These guys have, again, some of the best over the years, and they have a lot of properties that haven't really been used lately. They have Mega Man. They have, I don't know how many different versions of Res Evil. Onimusha, there's something that people have been screaming to come back. So there's a lot of properties there that can be done justice. And I talking about Dreamcast video and how there were certain games that, I think they've gone to the well a little too often with certain with certain properties, and the ideas in them have become stagnated to the point where even the hardcore are kind of going away from them. You saw this with Street Fighter V, where they gave you a bare bones game, and the professional players stuck to it because, yeah, this is what they're going to play. But the casuals who loved it kind of like, where's the rest of the game? And when they gave you the rest of the game, the quality was so far below even what you expect from, from a fighting game story mode that it kind of fell off. The same thing with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Infinite, by all accounts, is a great game fighting wise. But the decision to go with the art style that they went with, the fact that they're not having these classic characters that people are so used to having in these games, at least at this point, not in the game, is something, again, that's kind of dropping people's interest in the game.
Okay, I just want to jump in on that one part of the Infinite. I actually played it. If you look yesterday, I was on playing it last night. That's a Disney thing. It's not really a Capcom thing. And if you know what Disney is trying to do as far as killing Fox, they killed
the X-Men not in there.
Right. They killed all of the mutants in the comic books on purpose. To hurt Fox's brand. Because if X-Men is successful in the books, in any other places, then the movies will be successful. And it's strategic and it's smart. You devalue the property, you pick the property up, and then you build it back up. Same thing with the Fantastic Four. They did that on their own. But the game is really good. Story mode is really good. It's way better than the Street Fighter. I have the Street Fighter. It's stone cold. It's disgusting. But It is. It's ice cold. It's ice cold. It was delivered ice cold. It was DOA on arrival, and it did not resuscitate when they send the DLC through. I don't care how many free things you send through. If your initial impression of a game is of such, it's going to stay that way. But back to the Infinite, give it a shot. If you can, play a demo, go to somebody's house, share the game. The story mode really surprised me, and it was better than all of their other story modes in the Capcom games. I really didn't think they had any. They would just, fight here, fight now. But this one actually has a cohesive story that goes and spreads across many hours.
It is, but it's also super cheesy. I mean,
yes!
I forever laugh. There's a moment where I straight up, Ryu walks out of an Egyptian pyramid and says, "Me and my research team were actually doing some seismic studies to make sure that this melding of universes was correct." And he's wearing his karate outfit,
yes!
bro, seismic reading my ass. Are you kidding me?
Yes, yo, it is so campy. It is so campy. It is so B-movie cheesy. It is absolutely all of that. Yes.
Script by Calvin?
Yes, Calvin has the script, and he is doing a bang-up job.
Let's move this over.
So,
go ahead, let's all finish.
Yeah, so my question to the Lords is, what do you guys think about this? Is Microsoft making a mistake by not at least giving Sunset Overdrive 2 a chance to thrive on its system? And what do you think of the Capcom stuff? If that is the case, should they hop on that stuff, and what should they hop on if that's the case?
Let Dreamcast go in. Let Dreamcast go in on this.
I think you bring up a freaking extremely smart point, which is that if Microsoft does step in and at least buy a couple Capcom properties, if the rumors are true, they could capitalize that major. Like, seriously, if they just came up and said, "Hey, do you want to see the first ever Western developed Mega Man? Let's make Mega Man Legends 3. You guys have been begging. It'll be a giant open world third-person shooter, but with the still cartoony graphics you guys like. We're not going to make it gritty and weird. It's not going to be Gears of Mega Man." That could be a huge marketing push for them. That would be extremely valuable. But what I think is going to happen is, before it even goes publicly on market, I bet they'll probably sell Mega Man and stuff to Nintendo, and then they'll open up the market and sell off Onimusha to Sony and stuff. And I think they'll probably keep a couple properties that stay profitable. I think Capcom will always own Resident Evil, for example, but I do think they're going to get picked apart.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Shout out to Love Megatron in the chat. He said, "Recall speaking with Ted Price at E3." Wow, it's about, yeah, man. I mean, I'm with you, Lord Dreamcast, because it's like, I mean, the Sunset Overdrive thing is it's a weird one for me because, I see what the chat, shout out to Lord Kaibatu in the chat. The first one didn't resonate with me. And shout out to the Press Start podcast guys. We talked about this week. I was on their show. Check them out. Great group of gamers. Had a lot of fun on that show. Basically what we talked about is that, like, for example, I understand the importance of a game like Sunset Overdrive for Xbox. Because, as far as I'm concerned, I've complained many times. I call, Microsoft sometimes to shoot a box and they fall into that, rut of Big Mac, large fries, and shake with Gears, Forza, and Halo, right? We know those are successful, but a title like Sunset Overdrive, those will get different type of gamers onto the platform, and I think it's important. Now, although the first title did not resonate with me specifically, I understand its uniqueness. I understand how important that is to the ecosystem, right? And you can get, when you get a game like that that's different, that people love just for that type of genre, sometimes they're on your platform like, oh, by the way, you guys got Gears. All right, let me check this out. Those are the type of games that they don't necessarily have to be home runs off the jump, but they kind of bring other gamers in. The second point to it, which has me really frustrated with the Insomniac situation in Sunset Overdrive, is that, when we've talked about this ad nauseum, Lawsaw, we know it's like Microsoft has this tendency that when they do put out a new IP that they buy, like a Rise or whatever, because it's not a financial success out of the jump, they tend to fall away from it, and there's no sequel. Whereas you have Sony, where, I mean, for God's sake, there's a Knack 2 out right now. Let's keep it. Knack got a sequel,
but we know why it got a sequel.
Okay, I know with the Mark Cerny. I know you hate Lord Cerny.
No, I'm not even gonna go on Mark Cerny. We already know he's a snake oil salesman. But
the fact of the matter is that game sold well. That was a launch game and a thin launch lineup. It sold well.
Exactly.
Yes, it did.
True. But there's been instances of Sony, where they've had titles that, again, were not commercial successes with the first iteration, but they stuck with the franchise, reinvest, listen to what the feedback of the community is. That's all I want to see with Sunset. To me, it's pathetic that Insomniac is on Twitter e-begging for a publisher. Like, to me, that's sad. Like, Microsoft, Phil, get on the phone. Like, come on. Like, there could be a ton of stuff they can do. That's just me on that. As far as the Capcom thing, what Lord Dreamcast is saying is just that, yeah, I watched this video and it's really sad to see them in this, and they've made so many mistakes, and it's just crazy because, like, they had this tremendous history. I mean, we all grew up with Capcom, right? We've all these iconic franchises, and it's pretty scary for me to hear about them going away, a world without no Capcom. That would be kind of scary. And I want to bring it back to the Lords, to the round table, as far as, I know Lord Dreamcast mentioned Microsoft. How would you guys feel if either Nintendo or Sony jumped in? Like, who do we feel it might be the best candidates if these rumors are true?
Well, okay. Well, this is how I feel about it as far as the Capcom thing goes. Good for you. Good for you.
Good for you.
It's good for you because you sat there and you took us for granted. Good for you because you did not put your best foot forward at all times. Good for you. Good for you because you watered down a lot of IPs and you didn't do like Nintendo does. Nintendo nurtures and holds their properties, and they won't put it out until they feel it's the absolute best. And sometimes if they look at a vision and it's going the wrong way, they reassess the vision and they put the games off for a period of time. But you're going to get a game and they're not going to water it down. They could put out 1 million Mario games that year, but not one of those games are watered down. So they did that, but in the same vein, you got to look at Neo Geo and you got to say, well, Neo Geo did the same thing, and look at Neo Geo's fate, right? So I can't sit here and say I feel sorry for Capcom. I don't. Now,
wow, you heartless.
No
love for Capcom.
I don't, because there's going to be life after this, and maybe they can rise like the phoenix from the ashes. But Lord Dreamcast guy said, I don't believe they're going to get rid of Resident Evil at all, because the movie franchises, no matter what you think, sells. It sells like hotcakes, right? So they're going to keep that property. All right, so that's money in the bank there. They can sell off something like Mega Man. Mega Man fits Nintendo's mold. Like he said, I think they'll do a closed auction to Nintendo first on certain IPs that fit the Nintendo ecosystem. And Mega Man is one of them. Okay, so that goes there. then you say some of the Japanese properties. This is where I don't think Microsoft fits in at all. All right, because you say look at the Japanese properties and you look at Omnimusha and you look at other stuff like that. Resident Evil's off the table. So Omnimusha would actually go to Sony because didn't it debut on a Sony system? In my opinion, yes. This is what happened.
It did.
Right. So is it natural?
I was gonna say I think they even helped with publishing, so I think they could definitely walk in there and be like, we've done this song and dance. Here's $1 million. Thank you. I'll take it back.
Thank you so much. It's ours. You know, it belongs here anyway. So if it's there. What's left for Microsoft? And it
they had Dead Rising. Yeah, Dead Rising, right?
Right. And that's theirs. That'll be basically theirs. And that will be something that they would say, okay, yeah, we give you X amount of bucks for this. It's not a super seller. It has its cult following, like Super B movie.
Good point.
And it'll fit their type of thing. But in Microsoft's new philosophy, do they go forward buying stuff? Is that going to happen for Microsoft? And I don't believe, as much as faith as I got in Phil, I don't believe that fits inside Phil's philosophy.
The mold. Gotcha.
Right.
So then who do you think, Lord King, I'm bringing it back to you. Who do you think is the best candidate?
Sony.
Okay, yeah.
Sony's going to be bidding.
They had a relationship with Street Fighter 5, right? Street Fighter 5 was exclusive.
Remember Monster Hunter? Monster Hunter is although it's coming out for everybody, it's being pushed and shown on the PS4. So
is that because of the install base?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
definitely factors in.
All right, well, so now to Sun. Go ahead.
I was going to say, keep in mind that there is probably some behind-the-scenes bad blood between Capcom and Sony, because I was reading a report that basically said that they wanted to cook Street Fighter 5 for another 6 months, but Sony, since they were paying their bills while they developed it, forced him to release it in that really unfinished state. They apparently the internal memo was, we need this out 3 full months before Evo. You need to have people playing this and interested in this so we can have $1 million tournaments for this. So basically, even though Capcom was like, we know this is not done, we literally have like drawings for the cutscenes. This is not done. Apparently Sony walked in there and said, well, that's a goddamn shame. I'm paying your rent and it's going on store shelves.
There we go, baby.
It's interesting you say that, because I do remember, like I said, it was a huge uproar in the fighting community because of its unfinished state. But it's like you said, I do remember that Evo, that time frame matches up.
Wasn't they playing it on PCs at Evo?
Yes, well, and it was really weird. It was very behind closed doors. They weren't having a lot of open stage events. It was very much like a camera crew in like a Sony studio. It was a very controlled state.
Very weird. Yeah, I remember that Evo. It was very, very weird. And it might lend credence to what you're saying here, that Sony pushed them out into the streets and they wasn't ready yet.
sounds good.
And they got hit by a car. That's good for them. Anyway, this is what happens. This is what happens when you don't share the wealth. If you'd have put it on Microsoft and it would have been for everyone instead of trying to get the money back, then maybe it would have turned out better. It didn't. Bye.
I am surprised that never went multi-plat. I must admit, I thought eventually like it would be like a Super Street Fighter Deluxe Alpha version.
I think Microsoft probably passed.
Well, no, so Sony bought the rights. Sony bought the rights to Street Fighter 5 and bought exclusivity. And they said, okay, you're allowed to release it on PC, but it can never go to an Xbox platform ever. So because of the wording of that contract, we may see a Street Fighter 5 Ultimate Kamehameha Edition on Switch, but I don't think it can ever legally exist on an Xbox console until that contract expires.
Wow, makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. Let's get Lord Swati. He's been quiet and get a chance to get his feelings on all this news about Insomniac and with Sunset Overdrive 2 and possible rumors demise of Capcom. Where do you stand with this, Lord Swati?
It's a lot to take in. I really didn't look too much into the details of this, but hearing from you guys, it sounds like it's a real nightmare for a lot of different people. But I'm a big fan of the Resident Evil series, and to think
you love Resident Evil.
Yeah, to think that there might not be another one, that kind of hurts. But at the same time, I know that there would be someone that would grab that mantle. That's such a big series, as you said. I mean, they could even keep that and hold that as one of their only IPs, and they could probably still do well. I think that maybe what could transpire with a lot of the things that you guys are talking about is there might be a lot of different developers that might pick up the intellectual properties and actually run them and actually do something that the fans love, because you never really know. I mean, it's a lot like I mean, Sonic with Sega. I mean, I wish Sega would just release let somebody else pick up Sonic. Just
be careful. You got Dreamcast guy in here. Be careful. I don't know how you feel.
I mean, I love Sonic and I love Sonic Adventures, but the Sonic 06, post Sonic 06, it was terrible. Yeah, it's been terrible.
So it's interesting, just on the note, I don't know if y'all know this, but do you know the guy who made Sonic Mania was actually, he made a bunch of fan games, and Sega basically had a choice of suing him or hiring. They were like, okay, he's...
Yes, and they chose to hire him. That's I heard the story. That's amazing.
That's better than what Blizzard did. God.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we went over that in such detail, and I am so happy and proud of him with his due diligence and his determined, his dexterity when it came to pushing his vision. And that's why I got the Ultimate Edition of it, because I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, the one with the Genesis. Yeah, you put it on Twitter
and posted that.
Damn, I should have went physical for that one. I needed that.
Well, you didn't get a physical copy. They gave you a digital for it, but you got the physical replica.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. I had no idea I would have done it. I totally would have done that.
I'm gonna get a disc on it. But as far as Sunset Overdrive 2, this is the problem with Microsoft, and you're gonna continue to see this problem with Microsoft, right? You have Phil, who's basically dipping and dodging and moving on the squares that he can move. He sees the squares that are lit up, and he's trying to avoid the pitfalls. They give him a certain amount of money. Now, he has to say to himself, do I go with this failed IP? Now, this has burnt you already, or do I move forward and go with this IP?
You're talking pure business. Talking pure business. I have to concede.
Right.
From a financial standpoint, what you're saying makes sense. It wasn't a commercial success initially.
Not at all. And listen, when they touted Insomniac games, everybody was like, oh. Now the problem with that is Insomniac games, this Jet Set Grind Radio type of thing, that was far out of their wheelhouse. If you would have gave me a buddy game as like a Ratchet and Clank, a Jack and Dexter type of game, I think it would have excelled to the point and sold more and met people's expectations of the Insomniac brand. Now, I know you're going to say there's other games that they made that are different, but what they made their wheelhouse in was these type of games. And when this game was so different, it took people aback. Some people was like, I don't really know about that game right there. Now, me, I purchased the game. I love the game. I wish Microsoft would pick it up, but do I have any hopes of them picking it up? Not at all. And from what I hear, the game is at least 75% done. They're just looking for publishers and a little bit more backing to finish it up and close out the game.
Got you. Real quick to Lord Sov's point. So what do you think ultimately happens? Let's start with Sunset. Like, what do you think happens with them, Lord Sov?
I think ultimately they get picked up by some third-party publisher and the game goes third-party, as would make most financial sense. I would love to see it back on Microsoft's platform. Again, maybe a game that can start to really push Phil's Game Pass narrative about breaking up these titles and maybe kind of financially spreading out the cost of this stuff to have these games live on these systems. But that's pie in the sky. I honestly think somebody's going to pick it up and it'll be on everything, and that'll be fine. We'll still get to play it. I think another reason, if other publishers are kind of holding out on not picking it up, is the fact that you're picking up a sequel to an IP that you can't get the original for. So it's a question of bringing a sequel onto a system that people who own that system may have no prior knowledge of the original game, and then you don't have a basis for people having interest in it apart from it being an Insomniac thing. And when Insomniac coming out with Spider-Man probably this coming year, it doesn't make any sense to sort of dilute that message.
Gotcha. Absolutely. Yeah, Lord Dreamcast, what do you ultimately think happens with the Sunset Overdrive situation and Capcom? It's
hard to say. What may end up happening is it could end up being where they hand it off to another team, because what a lot of people forget is that studio is incredibly tiny. Insomniac Games, excuse me. Insomniac Games is actually one of the smallest studios in the business. They have a lot of trouble even making one game at once, let alone 2 games at once. And like you just said, they're really, really deep into Spider-Man right now. So it could just be very much of like they end up giving the IP temporarily to somebody, whether it be Microsoft, Sony, or Nintendo. It'd be like, okay, you have full permission. We'll give you like 30 people from the original team to make sure it stays as core to the original feel, but we can't even help you with it. So I honestly think that that's a very strong possibility as we see a Sunset Overdrive 2, but it's very different, still awesome, still funny, but also polished and very different.
Well, shout out to Lord Kiss Moves in the chat. He's dropping gems in there. He's saying that he's thinking the Capcom will not be sold. He's also saying Sunset Overdrive 2 will be published by 505 as a multi-plat.
That would be, dude. I was just gonna say, if that's real, that is the best possible move, because that's one of these where a series like that deserves mass attention, but you need it on every console so that everybody can be promoting it. And yeah, that would be such a great win.
Well, Spoon, we gotta get you back on the show, man. You dropping jump bombs. I hope that's true. Man. That would actually be cool. You know, like I said, Sunset Overdrive wasn't my cup of tea, but I don't want to see the thing go away. And like I said, if Microsoft can't get it, then doesn't look at it as a financial success, like Lord King is saying, then hey, by all means, go multi-plat and let this thing continue to live. You know. So that's what I got on that. If any of the lords got anything else between Insomniac and Capcom, are we ready to move on?
Let's move. Let's move.
Yeah,
I'm taking a move. No doubt. So we got Lord SWAT back in the building. And as you know, a lot of us are Destiny guys here. And that PC drop launch came out this week. So Lord SWAT, tell us about your experience with that. You know, we have a lot of people on ILP Twitter asking, you know, about the PC experience and, you know, that uncapped goodness. So Lord SWAT, talk about your experiences with it.
I had a lot of very good experiences with it, and I had a lot of very bad. So far, like, one of the best things is that the game just looks phenomenal. The game looks, and the frame rate, it's very smooth. My absolute favorite thing is that the aim assist is finally gone. I can finally, you know, aim at one enemy, shoot at that enemy. If someone runs across the screen on PvP, I'm not dragging my reticle back to the person I almost had down. And also the aim assist actually does really make it feel a lot smoother, because I don't feel the jumpiness with a lot of enemies in one room. I don't feel the jumpiness pulling me to aim down the enemies. One of the worst things that I had with it is the text chat. The text chat is it's only whispers between fire team, PvP team, and clanmates. I think people on your friends list is for Blizzard as well. But it's very limited, and I had a lot of issues, especially during PvP, because someone on your team might actually give you a call out every once in a while and tell you, oh, hey, there's someone behind you. But you have to actually switch over to the team chat to actually look at that.
Wait a minute. Back this up, Lord SWAT. So coming from a console peasant perspective, so you have to educate me. Now, you're being to tell me there's no built-in chat interface? Like there's no party chat. I know there's been a big issue with the third-party apps and Discord. I mean, like having overlays and stuff like that's been disabled. I know people are getting banned and stuff like that for having that. But you mean to tell me in game, like there's no chat interface?
Like voice chat?
Yeah, like let's say we wanted to do a strike or you know, together, or you know, whatever. Like how do we set that up? How would we go about setting up in game with what's provided, so to speak?
Nothing. That's the thing. There's nothing.
God damn.
Wow.
Switch.
I would have to. We would actually have to try to meet in the tower. We'd have to try to actually see each other in the tower and send that invite in game. That's the only way to do it in game. Like I said, you have to have it as someone on your friends list, and you have to be able to whisper them. But if it's your first time jumping on, like it's that's the thing. And it's, you know, I actually just got, like, just before I was finished playing yesterday, I got an invite to a clan. And that was just because they saw me in the tower. They saw I was over a certain light, and they just sent me an invite. And so I figured, why not? I'll join it. I'll see what the clan is like. I have not received any messages prior. It's just dead silence. There's nothing. I don't know who's in the clan. I can't see because the clan system is bugged a lot, like on the Xbox and PS4, where when you jump into the clan, you can't. It just shows the scrolling wheel. They had a few little bugs in here and there. I had instances where enemies and missions, they would just be stomping the ground. They wouldn't be shooting. They'd just be stomping. You just run right through.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Headbangers.
You're not painting a very happy picture right now, Lawson. I'm not enthused right now. Like, you gotta get me hype right now. Talk to me. I heard this was
weird
4K
one.
60 goodness. I mean,
it's
beautiful. Shout out to
I have a 1080.
A couple other people I see that they talk about.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a 1080 monitor that has 1440 super scaling, which it does look great. Like I said, the 60 frames per second.
What's that frame rate you're running? What's that frame you're running?
I'm usually running it unrestricted, just because with like patrols, they're so big, they're so expansive. My graphics card isn't, it's not a NVIDIA 1080. It's a Radeon RX 480. And it runs it very well. It's just in the patrols where I want my field of view to be very, very far. I'm seeing, mainly about 40 to 60 in patrol areas. It's pretty varied basically on how far I can actually see. But with it trying to run restricted 60, I get a lot of choppiness. So I actually running on restricted, it feels a lot better. In lost sectors, I see the biggest frame rate jump. I'm usually around like 120 plus on frame rate, just because they're so small. But Crucible is very smooth, like 50 to 70 frame rates, very nice. I definitely love just how PvP feels on the PC. It feels a lot different.
Yeah, I even heard there's a different meta too. Yeah, like the meta is even a little different based on the feel of the game.
The thing is, without having the aim assist, not every gun is going to it doesn't have the same feeling as console. Whereas a hand cannon always fires like this. Every hand cannon can almost feel similar because you're always kind of hitting the same spots. And that's actually another thing with the PvE is when I played on the console, it felt like I was just, I heard Time Magazine say, you're running through a room filled with balloons and you're fighting them with a nail gun. And that's and that was exactly how it felt. In the PC version, you're not locked into the aspect of always locking onto the head just when you aim down. And the fact is, in PC, because you're not doing that, you're not always getting the precision damage. So when you have 10, 20 enemies running at you and you're not hitting precision shots and getting that one-hit kill on every shank, suddenly it does feel a little bit more difficult. And I do really enjoy that. Because I really wanted a little bit more of a difficult playing ability on Destiny 2, and the console didn't feel like it had that.
Okay. So overall right now, overall right now, great graphical presentation. Your only gripes right now, just like, they got to get the chat, the social aspects.
I said everything else is garbage, but it looks nice.
No, I didn't. I said
so sad.
I didn't feel that on the console. I feel that on the PC, and that actually did make me feel a little bit better about jumping on and playing, because it didn't just feel like I'm walking through a mission trying to get my participation bonus, or going through PvP waiting for my token. I wouldn't be playing this patrol because I'm really just sitting here doing the same thing, and it's not difficult.
Gotcha.
I'm just waiting for my token so I can get my little chess piece or whatever.
I got you. Now you weren't one of the, a quick question for you. You weren't one of those unlucky people who received the ban hammer from Bungie. I heard there was a big rumor going on. A lot of people with third-party apps that even presents overlays the way Lord Dreamcast, like the way the Battle.net has it set up. I believe it was very restrictive to not allow any code to be entered in the game, so that they would automatically,
so no mods of any kind, of any variety, instant ban, right?
Yeah, kind of. So there was like a lot of false ban hammers going out initially on launch, from what I understand. But they did they get that rectified. Now let me bring it to you, Lord Dreamcast, and I'll bring it back to Lord SWAT. Obviously we're Destiny. I'm assuming you're not a Destiny guy.
I am. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What was the question?
No, continue. Oh, you surprised me. Continue.
So I did not like Destiny 1 very much. When I initially reviewed it, I gave it a 6 out of 10 because I felt like even though it was so had such great gameplay, such good aiming, such tight controls, it was just such an empty treadmill of the same guys walking up. Destiny 2 fixed a lot of the problems. I think I ended up giving it an 8, and I was really, really impressed with the fact that the dungeon layouts were better. The guns felt a little more fair. The way loot systems worked. There were so many genuine, what do they call it? Improvement of life. Like just generally playing the game smoother. And I like that so much. My problem is that I'm still not a big fan of the rating. A bunch of my real life friends are obsessed with the rating, and they'll actually pull me in there because I'm light level 272. So they'll just pull me into raids occasionally so that I can try it. And I am just always like, I don't know. They're too complicated. I never thought I'd actually say that, but they're too complicated. Like, okay, you stand on this button, and I'm going to run this touchdown over here right as this giant monster comes out and pees on us. So you shoot it. It's too much. I feel like at the time, like it's someone basically
laying about the bathers.
I don't know. It feels like trying to pull off a giant bank heist, but I don't even get a good paycheck at the end.
That's a good analogy. Listen, Lord DreamcastGuy, I hear where you're coming from. You know, Lord King could attest to, like, I was terrified of the raids. I would never do them the original Destiny. And he's like, don't worry, I got you. It was a corner raid. He dragged me in. He's like, you sit in that corner and just do X, Y, Z. Shout out to Lord Sinister also. Those are guys we raid with consistently. And it's one of those things that I think, like, it's a shame because if you have it on Xbox, dude, we will run you through, Lord DreamcastGuy. Like, we've got it down to a science. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things that, I do recommend, like, you get your light level up a little bit higher, you know, so this way you can take a little bit more damage and actually deal a little bit more damage. But, like, once you get the first one under your belt, so to speak, and you with a team, like I said, shout out to Channel 5, shout out to, you know, Bad GG, all you guys that's rating all our affiliates, you know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you, look, like, it is one of the best cooperative experiences in gaming, the raid. And again, like, shout out to Lord Attic. I know he's not here right now. Like, shout out to Edgar. He's like, we need to escort drink. Like, you've got to experience your first raid. You've got to do it.
All right, I pinky promise here on all that the Lords hold dear. We'll do a solid raid now.
My man, Lord DK, we got to give you a shout, man. We got to give you a shout because, if you do, like I said, the majority of our clan, we're most on Xbox, but it's one of those things, like, we've got guys that are like machines, you know, Lord King, you know what I mean? Like,
I run that Nightfall on Prestige at least 15, 20 times a week.
They know all the tricks, all the strategies to get that light level up, right? And once you're up and you're in your first raid, and like I said, what I like what they do, which what I love our squad, is that they really simplify it. Like, just worry about this aspect. Just do this. Don't worry. You know, like, as even Lord King will tell you, like, the gauntlet, I was messing up 1,000 times. He's like, no, shoot the bottom. I shoot the top. When this happens, I'm like, okay, I got, like, so I guess what it is you just stick with one specific role. And then as you do more and more of them, then you kind of get to expand. You get your confidence up. Oh, okay, now I see what you're doing. Okay, I'm doing it from this perspective. Now I get it. Okay. And then you understand, like you said, the bank heist.
It's about trusting your partner to do what you said he was going to do. That's all.
Yes.
It's like you have to have absolute confidence that he's going to get his job done. Don't worry about nobody else's job but your job.
Focus on the one job. That's what got me through it. And then from there, they became really enjoyable. And this one is really a good raid. You know, kind of thing. But okay, so you didn't play this. We got to get Lord Dreamcast on some Xbox.
Yes, sir.
We got to get him over, man. We got to get him over. But back to Lord SWAT real quick. So as far as the PC now, there's a big thing going on in the community right now that I want to ask you. I know Digital Foundry has touched this. You know, I know the PC requirements and the rigs, you know, are out there. And the big rumor going on. Shout out to Lord Randall Thor. He just put a video out. You know, obviously we know that PlayStation has the marketing rights with Destiny 2. And we know that as far as the Xbox One X enhancements, they have been very mum. They keep saying we cannot talk about these enhancements at this time. You know what I mean? Shout out to Digital Foundry, who's actually been trying to dig with one of the Bungie devs as far as, you know, just seeing what the Xbox One X might be capable of. Now, I wanted to ask you, Lord SWAT, because you've played in it, and I'm assuming you're playing at uncapped frame rate and stuff like that. in your estimation, you're the tech lord, like in your estimation, do you think maybe we know they've come out with the official statement that Bungie said 4K 30 is consoles, right? But now we're seeing with the Xbox One X and X enhanced list coming out, we're seeing a lot of games like Gears have a performance mode, right? Where it's 1080p 60. Right, we're seeing Ark, we're seeing Rise of the Tomb Raider when they show these Xbox One X enhanced lists. Do you think there's a chance at maybe 1080p 60 as opposed to 4K 30, or do you think based on what you see, it's too CPU bound? You don't think they might be able to pull it off? What I'm going to the tech lord himself, Lord Swat. What's going on?
I think it's more likely they can do 1080 60 than they could ever do 4K 60.
Gotcha.
I mean, like 4K right now, it's a big thing because it's so many. I think, what is it? Is it 4 times? Sovereign, help me out here. Is it 4 times or is it 8 times more higher resolution than
4?
It's 4. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's really, you need at the same time if you're running so well at 1080, you almost need like 4 times the amount of CPU power in terms of that. It's like you really need so much in there, and right now I don't see the GPU capabilities within the Xbox One, even though they do have it built right into the CPU and that mode of the transformation.
GPU is capable, it's the CPU that isn't, because the game is CPU bound. The calculations and the particle effects and the triple anti-aliasing, that is all CPU bound, plus the algorithms that they give the NPCs. So that is the only bottleneck within the system, because when I run it on PC, I see exactly what is using PC performance and what is using GPU performance. It's using more PC CPU performance opposed to using my GPU, because I have dual 1080s. I blaze that game. I run 4K 80 frames per second, no matter what. But I see when it's when we get into open areas, it gives a heavy CPU hit, and I notice it because the CPU is using 80 to 90% of my CPU. I have i7. All right, and it says i7 Extreme, I think, inside of it. So for it to do that on that, and you would think the equivalent on the Xbox One X is like an i3. So yeah, overclock. So nah.
Let me ask you this question, because both of you, Lost SWAT and Lord King, obviously we were at E3 this year. You two had that exclusive NVIDIA access. Lord SWAT, Lord King, you were very premium at E3. So you guys were the first to see Destiny 2 4K 60 goodness. Can you tell me, like, what was the setup they were running them on, if you know?
1080s.
Yeah, they're 1080 Ti's with, I think, i7 7700s. And they ran very smooth. They were very nice. Funny thing is, King David, is that actually the one of the big differences that I see is that since I'm running an octa-core Vishera, I'm actually seeing a much less of a hit on my CPU. I'm only seeing my CPU running about like 40% up utilization at times, and only like maybe 19 to 20, 21 to 23 degrees Celsius on my heat. Obviously, I have a water cooler. Now, one thing is, are you seeing like do you see over 50% of your GPU utilization? And do you know?
But remember, I'm doing it in 4K.
Okay, yeah, that's much different.
That's true.
Right.
I'm running 1080 for my monitor.
When I put it in 1080, the frame rate is ridiculous. It says something stupid like 200 frames per second, whatever the hell.
I think it caps at 200. The game doesn't go past 200.
Something nuts like that. And at 1080p, it's crazy because the utilization of the CPU is so below. It's like it's not using it at all. But the moment I put it to 4K, it like doubles or triples the utilization of the CPU. That's where the bottlenecks come in at. So it's CPU bound.
Lord Sal, I want to get you in on this. Obviously you're Destiny 2 on console. Do you think there's a shot, or do you think the marketing deal still plays into this whole bit as far as the Xbox One X enhancement that should be coming soon? Where are you at with that whole situation?
I mean, I certainly feel that the marketing deal, as much as people say those deals don't affect these things, they obviously do. You're not holding back specs or not talking about specs because you feel like it. Like, there's no reason not to, unless there's something coming from a third party telling you, no, you hold off on this. So to me, it seems obvious that something is coming, and we'll know when the X drops what that is. 1080 60 again. They were games that the fact that with Gears that they just announced the 1080 60 mode. I mean, these are things that are just coming to light now.
Ark Survival Evolved announced 1080 60 mode. So because what it is, Lord Dreamcast, is for us Xbox One, probably that's our most preferred platform here, right? On the round table. But the thing is, a lot of the Xbox and the Microsoft communities are, look, this 4K stuff is great, right? But some people are like, look, I don't have a 4K TV. So then that's when I noticed they've been kind of promoting super sampling a lot, saying that you still see an improvement. But the other thing that people are saying is like, hey, we don't really care for the 4K, but if you give us 60 frames with a less resolution, that they're fine with that. And it looks like a couple of these earlier titles that we're seeing on this, like I said, Ark Survival, Gears, they just announced a performance mode, a 1080 60 mode, So the hope is that maybe that either through a patch later on or, down the road, that if possible, they can give the Xbox One X these kind of options to make it more attractive to, let's be honest, because the 4K market still hasn't taken off all the way. We're in the early stages of it, right? Not everyone has a 4K TV, so to speak. But I feel, at least I agree with the community in this sense, that that's a great marketing point to say, hey, if you don't got 4K, boom, we got a 60 frame per second mode for you, and you got super sampling. I think that would be cool. What do you think about that whole mindset of the community?
It's really smart, and in a way, very much this whole thing right now, and it's kind of been dawning on me over the last couple of weeks, is this feels like PlayStation 2, where it's like they come out with this new technology. And remember, the early PlayStation 2 games with DVD technology actually were just normal PlayStation discs because they just weren't making that big of games originally. But after a while, then it became like, okay, now the technology has fully caught up to what our gadget can do. And I think it's the same thing here. Like, buy this 4K capable device, and as all the studios actually start updating their projects to be 1080p or 60 frames a second or 4K compatible, you already have it in your living room. It makes it where, like, the people who bought it just on a whim or got it as a Christmas gift are now going to be 10 times more diehard, and the people who didn't jump on board initially are going to be heavily swayed over of being like, man, I went over to my friend's house and his game looked completely different and we're playing through the same game. So I think this is future proofing in the smartest way right now.
Absolutely.
I think anything you can do to get that game to 60 frames per second on console, you should do. Regardless, I mean, if you apply some sort of dynamic resolution scaling like you have with Halo 5, like whatever the case may be, do what you need to do to get that game to 60 frames per second on that console, and trust me, the people will flock to it.
Here's a question. Now, what if they just didn't advertise it as being 60 locked? What if they just said, oh, we'll let you run it unrestricted?
Hey, I don't care if
wherever the frame rate drops, that's where it is. I think that's a big opportunity right there too, because I mean, then you could tell people. I mean, then people could have the choice of running unrestricted on. Maybe 4K would be restricted to 30 just to keep it stable, but then to throw it on 1080 and say, oh yeah, run it unrestricted, because obviously you could do 4K 30. It can definitely do 1080 basically anything.
Yeah, man, I would hope so. I would hope so. You want to jump in before we move on?
No, that's it.
Yeah, man, I would hope so. I mean, that's the only thing, like I said, because I feel that, again, in the Xbox community, there's a lot of people who I see who are very interested in the X. But, again, they're like, hey, I don't have a 4K TV right now, so it's really not a priority. Shout out to Brad Podcast and those guys. He's one of the guys that I respect, and he said that, like, hey, I just don't have the need for it right now, but down the road. But I think if you offer these frame per second modes, and I think that could be a huge sale, and I think Microsoft could really take advantage of that if they start promoting those options. As far as Xbox One X enhanced.
That's what it seems like they're doing. It seems like every game that they talked about on their list has a quality mode, and frame per second mode. So trust me, it's the source is in. The CPU is going to take control anyway. You're going to get less, chugs here and there, or less graphical glitches when you do overlays. It's a better experience from what I've seen. A lot of stuff that they've been running. I try not to look at too many people's unboxings and impressions because I want to be wild myself when I unbox my stuff. But from what I've been seeing from the early fortunate few, shout out to you guys. You are blessed.
Don't say that. Certain people in the community are upset. Don't say that.
Listen.
I would put in their feelings that they didn't get Xbox One X's and they feel they're supporters. That's a funny thing in the community right now.
Shout out to my man Tim Dog, who should have had one. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It's certain people that definitely have it. There's certain people that shouldn't have it because they're Microsoft haters. I know what goes on in these streets. Just because I'm not.
I want to comment though. I want to comment.
Yeah, you need to comment on that because I don't appreciate that. But I know what Phil is doing.
That's what I'm saying. See, I'm going to give you your guy, Phil Smith. I'm going to give your guy credit. The reason why I understand a lot of the Xbox community guys. Let me just give Lord Dreamcast the context. Apparently, there's been a lot of people been getting the Xbox One X early. A lot of people in the community that are hardcore have been pretty vocally upset because I guess the people who received these, Xbox One X weren't very kind to the Xbox One in there as far as their review during the early stages of the cycle. So, what's happening is you have people like, hey, these guys bash the brand. We're the guys that got our flag out. We rep this hard. Like, we should have got it. And I understand that. I understand the emotional aspect of it. Like, a guy that was bashing a product that you really support and you've been championing gets it ahead of you. But at the other time, you got to look at it like this. And I always told this about Lord Saul is remember when Xbox One X, I thought was genius. They gave the console reveal to Digital Foundry. I thought that was genius. And the reason why is because let's be honest, when Digital Foundry comes on, Lord Dreamcast, Richard Ledbetter, he does that British voice. It's very, very smooth. And he reviews your frame rate. And he tells you how it drops and it spiked. And a lot of the Xbox One versions versus the PlayStation versions, it did not compete, right? The PlayStation version of a multi-platform game tended to 80% of the time resolution better or what have you, right? So to me, when Microsoft did that, to me, that showed ultimate confidence in the product, right? I'm going to give it to one of our harshest critics for them to review it, to have this exclusive story. And the way I look at it, and shout out to Porter Rock 77, he's got a good video out right now, y'all. Y'all got to check him out. I got to get him on the show. Is that he actually said it, like, it doesn't benefit them, like, to give it to the, because ultimately these guys are Xbox guys. They're gonna love the product, right?
You're giving it to the choir, yeah.
Exactly. You have to get the people who are on the fence, who didn't necessarily like the product, to say, you know what, this Xbox One X might not be too bad. You know what I mean? That's how you kind of change things around. But what do you think about this, Lord Dreamcast? Because this is a hot topic, and I'm gonna add this to the end of the show. But what do you think about that whole mindset?
I think a lot of people kind of forget that. Companies usually choose the people very strategically who they want to have their product. Like, an interesting thing, when they were giving out Nintendo Switches, obviously earlier this year, they gave some to the really big guys, but they also gave a lot to the really, really small YouTubers and stuff who were like 10, 15,000 subs, like something that normally wouldn't even get a free game. And that's because they're trying to really get this, what they call in the business, a temperature. They want to get a bunch of people so they get what they consider a fair average. So it could just be that they wanted to give some to the Xbox haters and see if they could win them over, and some to the really hardcore Xbox channels who they know are going to give it a 10 out of 10. Like I myself, actually, I talked to Microsoft trying to get one, and I didn't. I actually specifically said, like, hey, I'm Dreamcast Guy. I get like 1 million views a month. I'd like to check this out. And they were like, actually, we just ran out, unfortunately. But all my friends in Canada got one. So it's one of the things where I think they're being very careful with like making sure they get a very fair skew.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to your defense, I mean, you actually came out with a video recently about why, you feel like the Switch and the Xbox One, why do they get hated on? You know what I mean? I always looked at you as a balanced voice. So I think honestly, I don't think you should take it anyway, because they look at you as one of those. I don't want to say call you a filthy neutral or something like that, but like you have a balanced perspective. Like, and unfortunately,
filthy neutral.
That's normal. That's like, normal is demonized.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I gotta shut you up. Yeah.
I feel like as a good reviewer, you have to be extremely neutral. I feel like I always say like a good reviewer can walk into a game they hate, and if it's good, give it a good review. Whereas like a bad reviewer would be like, no, I hate God of War, and even though this new God of War is a masterpiece, I'm giving it a 2 out of 10. So a lot of times I review stuff on every console. I own every console. I play every console. That way I can look at every console evenly.
Facts. Lord Swat, Lord, let's wrap this thing up. Your feelings on that whole the Xbox, the community a little upset at Phil and these guys for giving out these systems.
I mean, there's a limited supply. It's pre release. They need a certain amount that's going to be going to the public, but these guys are going to be buying an Xbox One X anyway. And,
right. That's the key.
And I mean, I'm 100% with you. You got to go out and to really provide that, this voice of, hey, this is actually going to be something worth taking a look at. You have to go and find these people that didn't champion the project and the product and all that. You have to go and let them feel it for themselves and say, hey, actually, this is good enough that it sways me. And when people read that, see that, they'll say, you know what? If it swayed this person that I love, I respect, and I look up to, he's always been championing the PS4 or this other brand. Suddenly he said that this is actually better. Maybe I should actually consider it.
I'm gonna give you a different perspective.
All right, let's go.
They looked at your email. They looked at it linked to Amazon. They looked at it linked to Best Buy or whatever. When you pre-ordered, and if you're a YouTuber or you have a channel or Twitter or whatever, and they seen if you pre-ordered it. Now, if you are, a hater of it, you wasn't getting it anyway. Now, why send it to somebody who already pre-ordered it anyway? Right? Send it to somebody who wasn't going to get it, who didn't, or if they were going to get it, they were going to get it later after, the price drop. Because I heard crazy stuff like that.
The people who are kind of like on the fence.
Like,
I get it later.
Right.
Yeah.
And those guys that can actually say, well, I got it, and it's more than I expected. And, I don't have a 4K television, but what it's doing for super sampling, it's incredible. And push those guys to the front to change the narrative that's in the streets right now. Because remember what I tell you, people tend to say things that aren't true, but if you say it enough and you get enough people saying it, a lot of people believe you. So when you change the narrative of what's going on with Microsoft, because everybody's talking about, Microsoft is failing. What are you talking about? It's not failing. But if you got enough people saying it, people perceive it to be that way, and it might happen.
Microsoft's doing just fine. Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
I hear what you said.
I think public consensus was what killed the PSP. Early on, people realized the PSP has no games. Everyone used to just call it the "got no games" headline. And even though I own hundreds of PSP games, it's one of my favorite consoles to collect for, handhelds to collect for. But man, it sunk it as soon as people started being like, "Yeah, I'm interested in the PSP, but it doesn't have any games." And people say that about Xbox One all the time now. Like, I want to get an Xbox One, but there's just no games. Like, are you high? They just came out with Cuphead.
The PSP thing was once they broke it open and people were putting their entire NES catalog on it. Then it became popular for a different reason other than Sony's own games. But I think the Xbox thing, I think shout out to Enrique, and he had a rant about this I think a day ago or 2 days ago. And I mean, it just makes sense. Like you have to look at followers too, whether you're a hater or not. I mean, if you have 50,000 subs, you want to get something into their hands so that they can have an opinion. And again, it's about giving it to people who if they've been hard on you, they've been at least fair. And if they're out there and just say championing Sony, championing Nintendo, and just like shooting down everything that comes down, then you don't want to give it to that person because it's just gonna be negativity. I know DreamcastGuy said something specific about this, how people spend more time
hating on someone else's love of something rather than just enjoying their own thing. And that is that. I mean, and that's just the truth of the internet. But the fact of the matter is that, yeah, you have to get into somebody's hands who's been critical of your product, but it's still going to be fairly objective when they get it into their hands. And again, if you're confident in it, you should see some positive results in that. People who you don't listen, you're going to buy it, you're going to love it. Don't get mad at the fact that they didn't give you one. That's just ridiculous. I mean,
it was bad. It was bad.
It's business, and I'm gonna always, when it comes to business, the business decision, the right decision is to give it to the people that can get the most opinions about it out.
Facts. We're gonna wrap this thing up again. Thanks for everyone for sticking around. Apologies on that late start, but shout out to Lord Dreamcast Guy, man, for coming through. You know what I'm saying, to the Iron Lord Podcast Roundtable. Huge fan,
seriously, my pleasure. You guys have been freaking awesome. This has been a freaking blast. Seriously, thank you, and thank you to chat. Y'all have been awesome, providing cool questions, cool feedback. Y'all helped it stay popping. This was so fun. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, man. Absolutely, and you're always welcome back. We're gonna wrap this thing up real quick, but just couple things before we gotta pay the bills also. So just real quick, the new poll this week will be up on Iron Lord's Podcast Twitter a little later. We're gonna have it's gonna be the Murderer's Row October poll. So, which combination of the Murderer's Row do we think finishes 1 and 2 in October's NPD? Choices will be Mario and Assassin's Creed, Mario and Wolfenstein, or Wolfenstein and Assassin's Creed. So again, it could be, like I said, they don't have to necessarily finish 1 and 2 respectively in the NPD, but which combination of the three together finish higher? That's pretty much what the question is. So make sure you guys rock the vote. That's the question. Those are the choices. Rock the vote. Hit the ILP Twitter polls. And real quick, we just pay the bills right quick. Shout out to Plantronics. Like Lord King said, man, definitely trying to champion these products. I mean, they sent us these the rigs, the Dolby Atmos rigs. Great series. We're going to try to come up with some reviews for that very soon. We're going to get Lord Atticus involved with that with Lord King. You guys have that premium 800.
Oh, the 800 XL. Ooh.
The LX.
Lord Saab, what are you rocking?
The LX, the same thing. Yeah,
okay,
I got the 800 LX.
I'll do my 100 X budget review. I'll put that out for the people who, on a budget, they're just trying to get a little quick headset. Good. But shout out to Plantronics, man. High quality, great sound, Dolby Atmos, y'all. I know a lot of people say software, that's cool, but it really sounds great. So yeah, just want to wrap this thing up. We're going to do our outro. So, Lord Dreamcast, again, thank you for coming through. Absolute pleasure. Where can the fine people find you, and what do you have cooking up for us to keep dreaming about?
All right, so just find me at youtube.com/DreamcastGuy. Tomorrow is going to be a heck of a doozy. Tomorrow morning, I'm having my Mario Odyssey review going up probably around 9 a.m. Really excited, really kind of get that out there. Teaser, it's freaking amazing. And then I'm actually spending the rest of today working on a big Assassin's Creed video, which should be available tomorrow afternoon. So it is going to be a double upload of epic impressions. And then Tuesday, I'm actually doing, I as a kid, totally true story, I had a haunted game console as a kid. So I'm going to tell the story of that for Halloween.
Wow, that's dope. I got to check that. I'm looking forward to this, man. I'm hyped. And that Assassin's Creed.
That sounds like my Xbox One. It's constantly turning on by itself. In fact, actually, when I was talking earlier, it did exactly that.
You have your Kinect hooked up to it?
No.
It just turns on. It's like, you're speaking of me again unfairly, Michael.
Shall we play a game?
Shout out to Lil SWAT's cat in Texas, because his cat is possessed. I'm blaming your cat, man. Your cat always does something crazy during our gaming sessions.
No, actually, he's pretty funny. If we ever turn on the PS4, he'll walk up and turn it off.
Yes. Shout out to the cat.
Biasness.
Shout out to the cat.
Xbox One, he tends to actually turn it on and then leave it on. I think he likes the white light. And then my PC, I was saying in chat earlier, he kept trying to turn it off because the power button is lit up with a red ring. And he'll sit there and smack it and try to turn it off.
No doubt.
Shout out to the cat with good taste.
No doubt. Let's do these outros. Lord Saab, where can the fine people find you?
Oh yeah! First of all, big shout out to Dreamcast Guy for coming through, man. Like honestly, you're a man after our own heart because most of us here on the podcast we're 80s and 90s kids, so it's great to have people on that sort of parallel our experiences. And in that regard, you're living the dream because I wish I could go play Assassin's Creed today for 10 hours. That would be fantastic. But thanks for coming, man. We really appreciate it. And then the fine people can find me on Twitter at Lord Sav ILP and BX Sovereign on PSN and Xbox Live.
Salute the Lord Sovereign for being online. His profile is online this week, y'all. I saw it.
Miraculously.
It was on. So that switch. Lord King, where can the fine people find you?
Well, I like to give a shout out to Lord Dreamcast Guy. Listen, man, wisdom tooth didn't keep me away from stitches in the mouth. I'm talking like it's fantastic. You wouldn't know anything different. Heroin experience, but I'm here. I'm coherent. I'm 100% ready to get it in because nothing was keeping me away from this guy. I swear. Watch your stuff. I love your stuff. I love your reviews. And being neutral isn't bad, but you have good opinions on a lot of stuff. So, to hell with it. It works. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that other great stuff. But I would like to say next week, it's going to be a great week in combat sports. People, please tune in. We have our American fighters going at it on Showtime. If you have Hulu, watch it on Hulu Live. It's fantastic. And we also have UFC. UFC, I would like Lord Cognito just to give you a tidbit of what's going on in the UFC. I know what's going on, but he knows better than me.
Yeah. It's a big fight, y'all. It's going to be George St. Pierre and it's going to be Michael Bisping with the mouth. Madison Square Garden. The showcase is going to be spectacular. Great undercard as well, but that's the main card. And I'll chime in on when the Lord of Combat Sports does his intro. I'll chime in on that as well. I know Sav will chime in as well. So that'll be fun. No doubt. And Lord SWAT, one of the original Iron Lords. Always a pleasure to have you back on, man. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at SWATForce5. I haven't really been on was it Twitch? Yeah, I haven't really been on Twitch too much lately. Just kind of been a little busy with work and all that. But you can find me on Twitch at Bullet Train. Okay,
no doubt. And like I said, we'll be coming for you for more PC updates down the road. Shout out to the Apple Twitter that was requesting Lord SWAT. He was hot out here. They're like, is he gonna talk PC? I'm like, I got him. He's coming. He's coming. So that's good. Of course, it's Lord Cognito here, spreading that gaming realness on the ILP. Not telling you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. So again, like I said, please hit that like, that subscribe to ILP and all the Inner Circle Network media outlets. If you missed Tick Podcast last night, they had a great section on Azure. The whole thing with PUBG. Great topics, Cal, Anchorman, B Money, the trifecta, the trio. Make sure you guys hit them up. And then obviously Brother Podcast, Multiverse, they'll be up on Monday nights at 8 p.m. We got great content here at Tick, the amazing Tick GM Patreon, links in the description. All the support really helped. Yo, chat was lit, y'all. Thank you very much for the chat. Chat was lit. I've seen a lot of new faces. Interacted. It was really, really cool. And thanks for rocking with us. So on that note, we're going to end the show and we're out of here. Peace.